I am AnunnaMelody,
I am Melody of Melody's Reiki Healing.
and we have come together because we share the same name. And that initially was another melody, but we're here for spiritual chat, just allowing the topics to flow, you know. That's gonna be cool.
So I think today's topic, we were gonna talk about death, transformation and all that for you because I just recently had to say goodbye to the last elder of my family on Monday. And what that means for the family and how life transitions from there, what it means for those who are left behind. And what our new norms look like. And I think that's going to be the opening topic. And then we're just going to flow from there if anybody has any questions.
Yeah. I guess, how has that affected you?
So for me, this time around, luckily we had time to prepare. My mother-in-law has been in hospice for about 6 months now. And when we had a scare when she first came home, she had a lot of trouble breathing. And we really thought that was it. I gave her some Reiki and she like popped back in and she was like, "Hey, here I am. How's it going, guys?" Like nothing had ever happened. So, but we had a while to accept this transition. For myself, I'm handling it fine, but for the person who was her caregiver, was also the caregiver of the husband before mom passed away. So she cared for dad as well. So now she's having to like figure out like, okay, I've been in this caregiver position for like years now, and like where does my life go from here? Like who am I now? Now that I'm not a caregiver, like what happens to me? Where does my life go? Like I don't even know because I've been doing this for so long. So I think that's like an important topic for us to kind of chat about because like it is scary to think like, okay, now my whole life, everything that's been my norm is completely changing. How do I spread my wings from this?
Yeah. And you know what? I'm not a mother, but I heard that people go through that when their children become like adults and move out, and they're like, okay, so like I've been a parent for so long, what am I going to do now? Even though you're still a parent, it's different. So I know it's a different topic, but like maybe it's a similar energy of like you're moving into the next phase of your journey, and it's like it's scary because what does that look like?
Yes.
Since you've been a caregiver.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very similar, that energy. Or even like when one of us move out of mom and dad's house, right? Like that whole energy of like, hey, mom and dad or grandparents or, whoever your provider has been, has always been there to guide me. And now like I got to do this all by myself. I've got to like put on my big girl pants and I have to figure this out. Like, okay, what does this mean for me? Like that's, it's the same kind of energy then as well.
Yeah. But okay, so do you feel like you have a bit of an advantage because I don't know if that's the right word to use, but because you are a spiritually aware person, you have a firm belief that there is life after death. Do you feel like that helped you because you know that her soul has carried on?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Hey, Angela, thanks for joining us. I do think that I kind of have that advantage because I know like she's going on to better and she's going to be able to meet up with her husband. They're going to be able to decide if they want to reincarnate again or if they want to stay in that realm of, the second tier or whatever and eventually become ancestral. So I think I definitely kind of have that advantage. I feel like it would be definitely way more scary if I didn't have my belief system firmly in place to kind of help me get through it.
Yeah. Hmm. That's a lot. So, do you want to share any fond memories about your? It was your mother-in-law.
Yeah, it was my mother-in-law. She was so amazing. So she still holds in nursing the top score ever achieved. So she's like in the nursing community, everybody knows her name because she was the top student because she was so, so smart. She was smart as a whip. She was hilarious. The world's going to be a sadder place, but she was ready for a while, so I just wanted to accept her journey. She had been saying, I'm ready to go. I feel like my body's got me trapped here. So it was just a relief, really, for her to finally be able to reach the next tier, which
Okay. I my ex, we were never married, so she was not a legal mother-in-law, but we were together for long enough that it was like that. And she was like the kindest soul, but she had type 1 diabetes for like since childhood, and that like ravaged her. She was legally blind. She really couldn't see that much. She ended up she was born in, I don't know, she was like 40s or 50s when she ended up in the nursing home. And that's pretty young for being in a nursing home. Um, and it just weighed down on her, and she ended up stopping dialysis. And she knew that that would be, she knew what the consequences of that would be, but that's how she wanted it. And she ended up being on hospice. So I wasn't her caregiver. So I'm sure that that's so hard on you. But I've heard like once they're on hospice, it's like that's that's
yeah.
just comfort care until, and you know, so I've not experienced a huge death in my life, like family, pets, you know. Um, so far, I have had my grandfather die and my grandmother die, but I didn't really know them that deeply, so it didn't hit me that well, that hard. Um, my ex's mom was one that did kind of hit me though. You
That
know,
makes
it's weird how it's like not blood relation, but you can connect with people even though you're not blood related. Maybe sometimes even deeper than blood relation.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because the cosmos brings us together for a reason. You know, we have lessons to learn and people to meet along the way. So it doesn't really matter blood or not.
Yeah. I was talking about this topic with like people who were adopted and how they maybe they don't have not much or maybe very little or maybe even some cases no like soul connection with their biological parents, but that was just the right like chemistry to bring about whatever they needed biologically, so that way they go into the adoption process and then they find who they're like their soul parents, who they are actually meant to be, you know, parental figures and child to, and like that bond. And I was talking about that with a friend. She was adopted, and um, how we our souls can be guided, you know, like souls find a way.
I love that as a
Yeah,
foster kid myself. That makes a lot of sense. I can totally vibe with that.
because like a lot of people like when they get adopted, they feel like they don't know themselves, and it's like especially those who don't even know their family, but like your adopted parents are all your family, and like that kind of I'm kind of bringing up that because your mother-in-law, and she wasn't your biological parent, but you know that wouldn't have made it no more sacred than what I'm sure you had.
Exactly, exactly. And it's kind of weird because for us, this was like the last big one for us because my biological mom passed away 4 years ago on September 16th. And then my husband's father passed away 3 days later on September 19th, 4 years ago. And now we lost his mom, my mother-in-law. So it's now put us into the realm of the elders. We're now the elders in the family, like, and that's a weird thought because like who thought it'd be a good idea to leave us in charge, like holy cow, man, like we're officially in charge now, we're the elders of the family, like it's on us to like continue, you know. So that's kind of like a weird feeling as well.
Yeah, it's like millennials and what's the one right above millennials? It's like
Gen X.
yeah, I could get that confused with the Z. I'm like, which one's which? But I would be a millennial. But it's like I feel like I never grew up in the way that it seems previous generations maybe did. It actually kind of just feels like I stopped at 20 or something, and it's like, but I think that everybody feels that way. And then when you like, because I have never had no children, and so I don't have that constant reminder that I am aging. But then like it's kind of funny. All right. So I was in the grocery store and there's it's like cashiers that I see regularly, and I just be chatting with them. And we ended up kind of being friends, and I realized that she was in her early 20s, and it dawned on me. I was like, holy I'm old enough to be her parent. And I was like, how did this happen? How did this occur?
Right? Because we just stop aging in our minds. We're like, okay, that's enough. I'm all done.
Yeah, it's well, like, well. So, do you feel like moving forward that you are going to get into some new things? Like, what do you feel like you're going to replace that caregiving part with? Maybe caregiving yourself, maybe some introspection.
I wasn't her caregiver personally. It's a lot of work to be a caregiver. My sister-in-law was her caregiver,
Okay.
so yeah, I worry for her and like what her next step is because before she was caring for mom, she was caring for dad. So she's literally been in the caregiver role for the past 4 years of her life. So like she's kind of sitting in that space of like, who am I now? Like, how do I change? And that's kind of the conversation I had with her. I was like, now it's time for you to be your own caregiver to fulfill yourself and like figure out where it is you want to go. Like, how do you want to live your life most authentically? What speaks to you? What says your name? For all of us on the outside, all we can do is like provide that support and be there as that transition changes. Um, so yeah, I feel like that's like an area of worry for the family right now. Thank you, Angela, for the gift. We appreciate that.
Well, yeah, and thank you everybody for liking the live. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
it. We appreciate it. So yeah, I think going forward for us is just going to be about keeping those the family traditions alive. Still making sure we're making time to touch base with each other. A lot of times my father-in-law, he was a hard one because he was on hospice for like 3 days before he left us, and even before that he had really bad dementia, so he couldn't really communicate with us. He was just kind of like lost in the void, so we all kind of felt like robbed. But he used to take us like to the red apple farm, and he would take us apple picking, and we'd make like a whole day of it, and we'd get food and we'd do all this stuff, and then we'd go home and we'd all make apple pies together. And it was like he made us all take the day off of work to do that, or we would all take the day off of work to go to the Big E, which is a great big fair here in New England. So like just making sure we're keeping those traditions alive. We're not like, oh, we're too busy, we've got work, we've got life, etc. Like carrying that on so that the next generation, like our kids who are now having kids, can also like do that and carry on those traditions and realize how important it is to take that time for family, to stop what you're doing and be like, we need to gather as a family and have some time so we can connect with one another. So just keeping all of that alive is going to be like really the next step for me personally, and just playing the support role of the person who was the caregiver to help her be able to make it through this and figure out what her next transition is.
Okay. All right. I felt like a lot of people lately has been in a time of like a liminal space in between things. I had just wrote a blog post yesterday about that, and there's a song that came to my mind. It was a Britney Spears song, but not a girl, not yet a woman. But it's like that concept of being like in between and trying to discover what this next phase is, and you're not resonating with the phase that you just came from in the same way. So you're heading into something new, but like what is that? And it's like all I need is time, a moment that is mine while I'm in between is some of the lyrics of the song. And I think that that suits what we're going through. And I feel like it's like a collective thing, but it's all hitting us differently since we have different situations. Like for me, I am approaching my 40s, and that's like, oh my goodness. But and when I moved into my 20s and then into my 30s, I didn't really feel that, but I'm feeling it in my into this next phase. But it's also, I think, globally, because there's a lot of changes happening and a lot of transitions, and we're all feeling it. And not just the political scene, but spiritually, and just like the what spiritual awakening journey, and like we're all going into like the next level. And what did I say? The age of Aquarius. It's like we're trying to figure out what this all is. It's like this past month there was a I haven't even changed that calendar yet. There was a um, lunar eclipse on the full moon and a solar eclipse on the new moon, and I thought that that was very interesting, especially because of how everybody's been feeling kind of confused about what they want to do moving forward in their life. And those types of celestial events for millennia have been seen as conduits or keys, puzzle pieces, times to give us intuitive nudges on where we're supposed to go. And I think that that's what it is. It's like we're being intuitively nudged, but um, maybe it's like metaphorically the divine, or our spirit team, whatever it might be, is kind of acting as like mother birds, like nudging us out of our nests, because if they don't, we'll never learn to fly.
I agree. I think there's been a lot of collective change. It's been a lot of like great big energy. Like you were saying, we had the solar eclipse, we had the lunar eclipse, then we also had Mercury and Venus in retrograde at the same time. So we're kind of feeling that like that slump of like not quite being able to move forward, but knowing that we need to move forward in that like area of like usually Venus is like the planet of love and like being debonair and all that. But like right now we're kind of like in our like, no, I'm not gonna like give all that to you because I gotta do that for me right now, you know, and like we've got to figure out how to move forward. We've got to figure out how we're gonna put one foot in front of the other. And I've actually been saying that a lot as like winter was stopping and we're getting ready to come into spring. Like I feel like this transition has been like, whoa, like big time. The energy of like we need to like now grow from this death that we just experienced. We have to figure out what that transformation is going to look like. How are we going to spread our wings and fly? What are we going to do? How are we going to become of service? How are we going to transition things? Are we going to go into areas of like helping kids who are like going through hard times? Are we going to go around our neighborhood picking up trash to be a difference? Are we going to go give like TED Talks, you know, at schools or whatever of what we've been through and what our generation has seen to help those going forward? But like this is a big time of like we really need to get it together and we really need to focus on how we're all going to change as a collective because the energy is like heavy.
Yeah, I know for me personally, it's like I was selling psychic readings on Etsy for the past like 10 plus years. Since I've had that open since 2013. But I started that like around 2015 ish, more um, full time, I guess you want to say. And I've had this feeling over this past year to stop selling on that platform, just to like branch off and to see what else is out there, to remove myself from there. And so I've been in like a dance back and forth. Like I would put it on vacation, and the shop, you could put the shop on vacation so nobody purchases, but it's still there. Um, but then I would go back. About this past time, I was like, no, you know what? I felt like it was like the Fool card, and the in the Fool card he's at the edge, but in some decks they call it Dreamer, but he's like at the edge, and I felt like I was like that, and I needed to just take the plunge. And I recently did. I put the shop, my Etsy shop, on vacation mode, just so the reviews are still there and everything. I don't want to close it, but I've been working on my website, but then that's been like stressful. Yeah, not
Yeah,
stressful. It's like
that is
working on
stressful.
website. It's like, where's what go which, and I got to sign up for different things, and the money aspect is not rolling in the way it was, even though it wasn't rolling in you know huge amounts anyway. But it was okay. But it's like this. It's like the divine is nudging us like baby birds in the nest that is ready to fly, but we're scared. And I wanted to do that to take that leap of faith and stop on Etsy, because I wanted it to be like an offering to the gods, to the divine, to my spirit team, to all those who assist me in the spirit realms and etc. As a way to say, like, I trust you, I trust the process, I trust myself too. And it's scary. But and I was just talking with another friend, and she feels like she's like the same energy. And so it's crazy how we're all going through this, but just in our own way. Um so I think you know a little bit more about astrology than me. I know about astrology, but it's like, no, I'm not like I couldn't just spit things off at the top of my head about all of the things and how it affects us. So, do you have any understanding of what we're heading into, like this month or next month or whatever? Do you know? If you don't know, that's okay. I just thought I would ask.
So I'm not a super astrologer. I do like watch astrology videos and hang out, and like I love the concept of it, but it takes a lot of study. But I do know. So as you know, you were just talking about the Fool card and how yesterday was All Fool's Day. For those of you who don't know,
Yeah,
we're talking about the tarot. Um,
yeah,
April Fool's Day is equated to the Fool's card in tarot. And the Fool is all about like this journey. He's starting the journey of the tarot. He starts at zero. He's got this little bag on his back and he's like, do. I'm just going to do whatever I want. I'm off on this great journey. But he's about to go over a cliff. And usually there's a dog trying to pull him back, like, hey, it's cool you're on your journey, but be careful, don't fall off the cliff, man. And, I feel like that very much equates to where we're going this month. We're kind of like finally being like, I'm going to leave it all behind. I'm putting my little stuff in my little bag and I'm going to go forward. I'm not looking back whatsoever. And I feel like that's kind of the astrology for this month. We're going to have like this big clearing. And that's why we had to have those two eclipses back to back, one on the full moon, one on the new moon. Full moons being a time of manifestation and time to like really figure out what it is that you want. Although full moons always put me down and out for some reason, they knock me down. And then a new moon is a time for building the list, creating the things that you want as you're going forward, being like, okay, well, at the full moon, I didn't quite manifest what I want. Why did I not get there? Let me make my checklist and kind of figure this all out. So going in with that energy, that great clearing, and now being like, all right, now I'm just going to leave it all behind me. I'm going to leave all the negative energy. I'm going to leave all the bull BS. I'm going to go into the age of Aquarius most authentically, and I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. And I think that's kind of where we're all going. It's not going to be an easy transition. It's not going to be a comfortable transition. And oftentimes it might feel like a mourning, like a death, because we're leaving behind everything we built, everything that we've known up until now to start this new journey. And that's scary. That's so damn scary, especially for a lot of people. But we just have to have faith in the process. And I think that's really where the astrology this month is going into. We're getting ready to have another full moon. So we're getting ready to have that like great clearing and that like, okay, this is really what I want. This is really what I want to do, which is what the Fool does. He's like, I'm packing it up and I'm going, I'm doing what I want to do. And that's kind of how the full moon is. So I think we're going to have like that great, finally, like, I feel like we've all had a weight on our chest and we're going to be able to take that big, like, and just move on and be able to carry on out, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. Huh. I didn't even think about the April Fools and everything and how that correlates to it. I was just talking just earlier today with a really good friend of mine, and she was saying how she feels like she needs to have a funeral for her past self. And I was like, wow, that's crazy that you mentioned that, because I had came across a video here on TikTok. I can't remember the creator or anything, but it talked about something about a funeral. But this is also correlating with some stuff that I got channeled from just like for myself, and about having a funeral for my past self, or like a mourning, just a releasing, you know. Um, but then that made me sad, because I was like, I don't want her, the past self, her, to go anywhere. I want to bring her into to what we're the past self, her, to go anywhere. I want to bring her into to what we're heading into the future, because she deserves much better. Now I'm just sitting with the fact that the April Fools and how that, with the Fool card. And now that's just what it's on my mind. I'm like, so I know what I'm going to do after this live. I'm going to look into that a little bit more and reflect. Dang. I didn't even think about that.
Well, and that's the great thing about having conversations with one another, because like you might have information that I didn't think about, and vice versa. And we're like, oh, that's what I needed. And that's why I tell everybody, like, come together, have these conversations. Like when you're out and about grocery shopping, like, or, sitting out at a restaurant and out and about grocery shopping, like, or, sitting out at a restaurant and somebody's looking at you and you make eye contact. There's a reason for that eye contact. So don't just ignore it. Open up dialogue. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, that's uncomfortable. But that person might have a piece of information for you. There was a reason that you locked eyes. So that's why I feel like these talks that we all do are so so important, because of the fact that, like, we need to all have different information. Knowledge is the key to everything. If you stop learning, then you might as well just move on, right? Because knowledge is power and it's where it brings all of us. So I love that.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to bring up, but then it slipped from my mind. They were like, no, yet. Um, so, and I was also thinking about how this year is a 9. And nines is like, it's the last single number before the double digits.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this year is like wrapping up things from the past so that way we can head on into the next. And I think that that's really interesting because how we're all kind of, maybe not all of us, but a good majority of us have been doing a lot of reflecting and tying up loose ends and putting our minds on what we want to do from here. And um, I think that's really interesting. I think the rest of this year is going to have a lot of trials and tests, but not in like a terrible way, but just so that one for each person, obviously, but just so we can push our comfort zone, so we can move past our limitations, and then those who hold on to the old, I think that's the shift that's going to happen. It's like a paradigm shift. Some of us are going to go into the next, some of us are going to stay behind. But then this brings me into a thought about the different dimensions and parallel realities, and us aligning with, they'll say that we need to align with our highest timeline. And maybe that's what we're being prepared for, no matter how you want to like really look at that. There's in different interpretations of it, but I think that that concept and way to look at it is very interesting.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think that we're all going to have obstacles that are going to come into our way, and we're going to have to, like, pivot and reroute, the norm, and really, really, really think about, like, where it is that we're going, what we want to do, what we want to achieve, how we want to achieve it. And you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, some of us aren't going to be ready to grow, but that's kind of, that's how it goes. And I've been saying that a lot to people, especially as we're going from the winter to the spring. Like, there are just going to have to be some relationships that we leave behind. There's going to have to be some people that we have to leave behind. And that's going to hurt, and it's going to feel like a literal physical death, but we also need to allow that physical death of ourselves as well, so that we can continue to grow and continue to shift on as this consciousness begins to flow. Because, like, as we allow our consciousness to flow and come together, we all kind of build that one love, that one security, as opposed to the great division that we've been experiencing the past couple of years. And I think this is a time for us to really, like, be able to make differences day to day, little by little, step by step. First, starting with ourselves, and then going back to the collective consciousness to be able to create the big changes that we want to see.
Yeah. And something came into my mind recently about our lives is like a book, and the different chapters of a book would be the years, and each page in the chapter would be the different days of our lives. And with a book, when you're reading it, you want to make each, you would hope that each of those pages are so interesting and keeps you, you know, reading. And how that like crosses over to our lives, like each of the days of our life we want to make interesting and make the best out of each day. And then I think about that in like a cosmic perspective. Like I do a lot of what ifs. It's like what if, in like the Akashic records, for example. We're living out, but are we living it out, or are we just reading the book of melody and melody? You know what I mean?
That's
Is this the first,
interesting.
yeah? Is this the first time? Are we playing? Are we like writing the book, or are we just experiencing it? And that's a whole topic. But, but like if we're the first time writing the book. Okay, so that when we're done, it's going to go into the Akashic library, and so for future souls or whatever might be beyond can experience melody and melody, or you, the viewer. And so, like, what are you making your book? What's your book about? What's
I
your book
love
about? How's it gonna end? Like how did it begin? Yeah, but like all beginnings of a book, like there's stuff that has to go wrong with the main characters and stuff. Are you the main character of the book that is your life? Or are you allowing other people to be the main character? Like, that's a whole topic. But we could do a whole live about that topic.
That's amazing. I love that so much.
Yeah. I just be sitting here sometimes just like what ifing. So like what if also playing on that? What if some like future, but like even though future is like that's a whole topic in itself. Um but let's just say future is like in the future, like linear. So like some future person or soul is like experiencing our lives with us, like in the never ending story when he was reading the book of them. And like maybe that's why some of us might feel watched and might not feel alone. And maybe some of our spirit guides, the souls that we feel as our spirit guides, sometimes maybe they're not our spirit guides always. Maybe they are future instances, future souls that might be watching our their lives, experiencing it with us. And then that makes me think like our spirit guides, like they're learning with us, because if they're assisting us in our lives because we're making trouble and stuff by like not listening and stuff, and that like it's their job to like, oh, here she goes again, let me get her back on track. But that's like also lessons for them too. So they're experiencing life with us, so like our lives are not our own.
That is crazy. I love that so much. And it's funny because I've actually gone back to the Never Ending Story because it was like one of those classics that we grew up with. And losing Atreyu and how we all felt in that moment, in Valcor setting our spirit free, and having to go through the trials and the turbulations of saving the princess, even though we're just a kid ourselves. And like, how does that play out in our own lives now? But the thought of like, we're just reading the book of our lives and we're not actually experiencing it, that's like mind blowing. I love that.
I know, because it's like, well, then do we have free will, or are we just going with the motions, or are we just like, so that's like, if you stay thinking about that for too long, I'm certain that you'll probably go insane.
Exactly, exactly.
It's like you have to remove yourself from it for a bit. But I don't know, any future person that might be watching this, like, I think I might put this on YouTube. Leave it in the comment section. Let us know. And you watching this here, let us know we're watching the chat. Okay.
Yeah,
And
feel
don't
free to
forget to
chime
like.
in, guys, with your thoughts and everything else. So while we're kind of like in the realm of space and time, do you want to take a little time to touch on spirit guides? Because I think a lot of times when we experience a death, my family included, they want to be like, oh, now so and so is part of my spirit team. And I'm like, actually, that's not necessarily always how that happens. Usually it's ancestrals down the line. So do you kind of want to touch on that a little bit?
Okay. Well, my perspective of spirit guides, it's like there are other souls who we've known in other lifetimes. I think that it would maybe be a more rare situation for us to have a spirit guide who we've never met before. I think that they are like our soul family, but they chose to just not incarnate with us this time because they have much more capabilities looking at us from a higher perspective. And um, with our ancestors and the deceased members of our family and friends and stuff, like they have their own journeys too, and we can't just expect them to follow us around for the rest of our lives, and because they have their own journey too. But I think of it like a telepathic thing, and we can always connect with them even though they might not like literally be there in the room with us like actually, but there's always that telepathic telephone, and we can always just send them a little interdimensional text message with that telepathic energy. And that's kind of like how I look at it. Like they're always, we can, maybe not always, but like usually I think that we can connect with them. But we also want to allow them to continue their journeys. We don't want to always constantly be picking up that telephone like hey, I need you. Hey, I need you. Hey, I need you, because that's like, we need to let them continue their journeys too. And I think that that is why people's like, well, like throughout history will say like let's put them to rest, so that way they can move on and do their thing
Yeah.
and continue their journey other than being here worrying about us.
I love that. And I totally, totally agree. I always feel bad because like when I have people in my Reiki room and they're like, oh yeah, my grandmother or my grandfather. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they touch base with you from time to time. And they're like, no, they're always with me. And I'm like, that's not really how that works because they have their own stuff, their own things they have to go through. But you also don't want to like burst anybody's bubble either, So it's like kind of a hard thing as people on the side when we do the work of like being able to properly explain that and make people feel at peace and comfortable with it and being like, actually, your spirit guides are usually, somebody who isn't with you and who has been like assigned to you in this lifetime. Um, so I just figured I would also get your take so we could share that because I kind of had to do that own bubble bursting on Monday. And I was like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but this isn't actually how this happens. Like, it's a common misconception. So,
I think it's like thought of, and like here it's like if somebody was like a ghost, like a ghost following an individual around. I think that maybe people have that perception. Um, but it's like our souls, like maybe can like multi-locate too. It's like for example, somebody calling upon Hecate, the goddess Hecate. I'm sure that there's millions of people in the world at the same time that might be calling upon Hecate. And she could be, how could she be here if she's over there and over there and over there and etc. But like, so like a multi-location, because it's like from the outside looking in, it's like looking into a fish tank or a terrarium. And um I don't know if that's a right terminology, but it's like when they're on the outside, they could look in, but like time isn't linear. So like in a perspective, they can be there, but like they're not there like a ghost following you around,
exactly.
because time is not linear. It's only linear here because we're in this game.
Yeah.
And
A
but
matrix.
they're like in the beyond time now. Like they're not just going by the sun and the moon and okay, today's night and day and this has been a year, and That's like not how it actually is. That's just for this little game called Earth Life as a Human right now. So they've graduated from that. They've finished that, and so like I think that when people say that they're there, they're picking up with the telepathic connection. They're picking up with the connection of like, okay, this person is beyond now. So like they are here, it's like in spirit, and I think that that's kind of what it is. Like you would be looking into a fish tank or a terrarium, and they're not. You're not in there with your hamster or fish, but you are there. You're observing. You're there, but you're also doing your own thing. Even though you're not always sitting there staring at them, but you're like always there.
That makes sense. I
Yeah.
like that. I love that.
Dot.
That's great. I love it.
Okay. I don't know if I totally got off there.
That's what this is all about. This is all about us like sharing our thoughts and, like offering different perspectives, and other people can hop in and offer their perspectives and be like, well, to feed off of that, dot, 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 so we can all educate one another and share thoughts and, go down the rabbit hole together. Why not? It's a great day for it.
Mhm. Um. Huh. Okay, so I feel like we've like covered a lot. So.
I think
um.
so. But I would challenge anybody to really take that journey into the tarot, not just read about the tarot cards, because yes, they all have their own different meanings, they all have their different perceptions. But when you look at the tarot as like the zero card, this is a fool going through the journey of the tarot. He's learning his lessons, he's learning to grow, he's learning to let go, he's learning when he's stuck and how he's gonna unstick himself, and how he can journey through time, and looking at ourselves as a fool where we just came from All Fool's Day, and where is our journey going? What are we doing? How are we going to change? How are we going to unstick ourselves from sticky situations? How how are we going to use the bigger energy of some of the bright, brilliant major arcana cards to create a difference in the world and in our own personal lives, even if it's just like little baby steps, like instead of using plastic bags, bringing reusable bags to the grocery store. Maybe I'm gonna walk down the street with a trash bag and I'm gonna pick up some trash. Like however that looks like for you. But I would challenge everybody to really take that introspective step to look at the Fool card and find yourself within that Fool card and be like, okay, like I'm ready to pack up my little pack, I'm ready to move on. But in the meantime, like, what do I have to face, and how is this going to look like for me as I'm leaving behind everything I've ever once known, so that we can continue to all journey together? And if we have to give ourselves a funeral and let that person die, or in your case, if we want to bring little tidbits of us with us and put it in that backpack to help them heal and grow, like however that looks like for you. But going back to what you were saying about reading the book and trying to make every day interesting, I would also urge everybody to try to start some journaling, because journaling can be boring, it can be taskful, and it doesn't always have to look like Dear Diary, today I blah, 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 blah. It can, if that works for you, or it could just be bullet points, but that way we can go back in a year and we can reread that book and see how we've grown, where we're going, or what areas we have that we're still like, I'm still in that same place, dude. Like, it's time for me to grow from that. So I think that that would also be a really good idea, so we can go back and read that book on our lives, just like the kiddo from Neverending Story was reading the story, so we can go back and reflect on that.
It's wonderful. I also wanted to just say for tarot cards, like, I have purchased this deck because sometimes it's hard for me to remember. So I don't just like my mind just goes and goes, but and then I get like ADHD, I guess, so I get like absent minded sometimes out of nowhere. And so like these cards are like so helpful. And I got this from Amazon and it was cheap. It was like under $20. So like there had a whole bunch of different types. Um, but they have like the meanings on the card. So like if you're unsure about the meanings, and you like look at the card and you're like, okay, what does this mean? And it might overwhelm you. Just get these, and I think that these are like good for even people who might know tarot. Um, Maybe not those who are like can read it just like that, but I know like for me, like I get so rattle-brained sometimes, and it's like helpful. So, um,
I love that. I've actually ordered a deck like that off of the TikTok shop for my own kiddo because my kiddo wants to start learning tarot. And I was like, well, there's a lot to it. It's more than just like remembering each and every card. It's like how they spread out to the in the reading and stuff. So I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I would say for anybody who's interested, please do something like that for yourself.
because you also have your intuitive interpretations. Because like what one card means for one person, it might not mean the exact same for another person. But also, because like I'm good at intuitively reading the deck, not so much by the book though. So like I want to get better at reading the tarot by the book, and kind of having that basic knowledge. So like reading each of those cards each time I do a reading for somebody else or for myself, or just flipping through, it's like it's getting in there. But I also wanted to touch base on journaling, and that's awesome because, like, for example, journaling your dreams, it can train your mind to remember more. But also think about like 10 years ago, if you were journaling consistently, wouldn't that be interesting to go back 10 years ago and read an entry on today, but 10 years ago, and what your thoughts were at that time? And it gives you a I guess like hindsight, perspective of things, and it gives you an understanding of where your mind was at the time. So maybe it was like you were in a situationship and you were like head over heels for this individual, but now you can see that you were just infatuated, or whatever the case may be, and you would be able to see like the mistakes that you were making at the time and learn the lessons so that they're not mistakes, they're actual lessons.
Absolutely. I love that. I think it's great to, go back and see who we once were and be able to continue to grow and off of that person we were in love, be like you thought you were head over heels in love and that's okay. You were young, you were learning, you were growing, and I offer you that love and that healing that you needed at that time that I couldn't provide you.
Yeah, and it's like having a little conversation with a past self.
Exactly. And I think dream journaling, especially now, oh my goodness. So, as we came upon the great goodbye for my mother in law, I kept having dreams about birth and like being pregnant. And I was like, something's not right. Because I know like this baby making factory is closed. Like, I know that. So, like, why am I having these dreams? And like that day, I felt so off. It's not that I didn't feel good. I just didn't feel myself. I felt like out of body, like I was looking at my body, just like walking around like a zombie. And then we got the news, and I was like, well, that's why, and that's one of the reasons right now I'm gonna become such a big advocate for journaling because like knowing in those moments like that was my mind and my body like trying to prepare me, like trying to be like, all right, we're about to take a blow, so we're kind of like shutting down and we're getting these signs. So absolutely, I think it's super important for that.
Yeah, and I have a cousin. She is a recovering addict from things, and she had I have recently saw her a few days ago, and she had some journals, and she was telling me how she started journaling and just like writing down whatever comes to her mind. Maybe it's like a really depressing poem one moment, or like F life or whatever, but she's like writing down those thoughts, as they come. And she's finding a lot of meaning in the words that she's just writing down. Like if something comes to her mind, she's like, okay. And she's finding that she's an amazing poet, and she never realized that before. And that's
Aw.
helping her in her recovery. And so yeah, like, and then like if you are such a busy person, like they have notes apps that you could download on your phone, or you could send yourself an email. Sometimes I text message myself. So like
Same.
you could even do that if you wanted to and just save the thread. But there's a lot of notes apps that you could do it like that, or you could have a blog, It's so not even that hard to make a blog. So like, don't even think that you can't do it, because you can. Because if I can do it, you can do it. Um, but you can make a blog and then make that private, so your eyes can see it too.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do
Yeah.
that. And I love that you brought that up. Absolutely. There's like microphones that can go to a computer and you can just voice note, at the end of your day and just kind of like do it that way. Or like you said, find an app on your phone or even, video yourself when you're in the moment and you're sitting in the car and you're having those feelings and you're letting yourself have those feelings and just keep it private to you so you can reflect on those.
Yeah.
I think
Because
that's all really sound advice.
yeah, because on my phone, I have like a little voice text option, and so like when I was doing my blog post the other day, I just voice texted it and emailed it to myself, and then I edited all of the autocorrect errors out. So if you don't have the patience or the time to sit there and literally write in your journal, like that is an option. I do think that it is good to write it down old fashioned style, paper and pen, because if you ever lose access to the internet or whatever the case may be, like you still have it there.
Exactly. If the system fails and crashes.
Hmm. So it's like always there. Or like imagine like if you had stuff on a floppy disk, where are you gonna find a floppy disk reader? Like so. Yeah, I think that if you can do it like old fashioned style in an old fashioned notebook and a writing utensil. But if you can't, that's understandable. You can start it off in other ways.
Exactly. And there's always ways to make it fun too. Like I like to use different glittery pens depending on my mood. If I'm feeling like in an area of like, oh, business has been really good today. I'm feeling, yeah, I'm feeling really abundant. I'm going to use green. My usual go-to color is purple. I think that's for most of us in the spiritual realm. Our go-to color is purple. But some of us are more like blue and calm, like the ocean, depending on your day, or you can get stickers. I know I have all kinds of stickers. We're the sticker book generation. So I have some weightlifting stickers for like when I go to the gym, or I really love Beetlejuice, so I have Beetlejuice stickers. It just depends on like what makes you happy. So you can always make it super fun.
Did you watch the movie?
I did.
Oh God, I loved it.
Did you?
Like so off topic. I loved it. It's obviously nothing compared to the first one, but I did like it. I think
Yeah,
they.
I think that's I think for me being like Gen X, like I'm such a diehard for the original movie, for the cartoon even. So I was like, none of this is like making sense in my brain. So I was having like I had to look at it as like a separate movie, not as like Beetlejuice, but just like as a brand new movie and not even like equate it to like my childhood past. And then I was like, oh, okay, well now it's a decent movie.
It's like Hocus Pocus. I've never watched those sequels, and I don't know if I would want to. And I recently found out that they are redoing A Walk to Remember. No, just a hard no,
Oh.
a hard pass.
Yeah, I've heard they've also redone the Goonies. I kind of have a problem with that.
I place judgment upon that.
Right.
No. But that's a little bit off topic, but that's okay.
Oh, good. That's why we do this. Let things flow. But I think we've covered about everything.
Okay, I know that you had some things to do, so did you want to end it here?
Yeah, I gotta go get off to the gym before I lose motivation.
Well, happy working out.
Thanks.
You have a good workout.
Thanks. Are you going bicycle riding today?
Yeah, maybe. Definitely doing something.
Awesome. Well, have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for hosting this.
Have a wonderful day too, and see all of you later.